around the world have played a key role in the response to COVID-19. They were our first line of defense. They were at the forefront of our prevention and containment measures, the vanguard of our humanitarian response, as well as taking the first steps towards building back livelihoods post-COVID. Local authorities therefore proved to be an indispensable ring in the governance chain and an instrumental part of pandemic prevention and response actions. Consequently, time is ripe for scaling up the role of intermediary cities as the next frontiers of African urbanization and development. I say this because in Africa, an unprecedented rate of urbanization has propelled intermediary cities to stand at approximately 1,086. Intermediary cities like Kisumu, where we are today, are home to approximately 174 million people, representing about 36% of our continent's total urban population and contributing about 40% of our continent's GDP. So as we convene to deliberate on how we can establish a shift towards a new urban paradigm and unleash the potential of intermediary cities in fostering inclusive development and the realization of our SDGs and all other social economic development initiatives, we must keep in mind that Africa is becoming increasingly urbanized. The traditional rural focus within development plans risk marginalizing a growing section of our population, one which will soon be the majority. This is not to say that our rural areas should take a back seat. Rather, it is to recognize that our development plans must be in tune with the realities of rural-urban migration and the concentration of large populations in small and often unplanned settlements in metropolitan areas. This calls for proper planning to create smart cities that meet future urbanization challenges, plans that address the emerging needs related to food security, health, shelter, environmental conservation, as well as infrastructure. The need for proper urban planning was clearly demonstrated during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, when it became necessary to support those living in informal settlements in our cities and urban areas with food rations, as well as the provision of sanitary facilities. So, ladies and gentlemen, the challenge of our time is therefore to make our intermediary cities and municipalities sustainable and fit for all our citizens. Accordingly, this summit has the task of providing the continent with a comprehensive and achievable roadmap on how our intermediary cities can contribute towards the implementation of the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, as well as our own African Union Agenda 2063. Here in Kenya, for example, the national government has over the last 5 years been implementing projects and programs geared towards improvement of lives of our people through the achievement of the SDGs. This has been under the auspices of our National Economic Blueprint, our Kenya Vision 2030 and its medium-term plan, the Big Four, and the agenda espouses provision of a decent roof over many more heads at affordable costs, at affordable health care for all, value addition by increasing manufacturing and jobs, as well as ensuring food security for all our people. We have also embarked on a slum upgrade program that is spread across our country, notably in our capital city of Nairobi and the intermediary cities of Mombasa and Kisumu, as well as our youngest city, that being the city of Nakuru. These concerted actions have been through the Kenya Devolution Support Program, the Urban Support Program, the Kenya Slum Upgrade Program, and the Kenya Informal Settlement Improvements Program. So to achieve the goals of this convention, we must make this, the 9th edition of the Africities Summit, a questioning summit. And in that regard, I would like to propose a 12-point questioning framework for all participants. And this framework should guide us in understanding the problem and charting the way forward. Firstly, how do we reinvigorate the management of urbanization, the electricity feed, provide affordable and inclusive transport, provide high quality and accessible education and healthcare, and improve the standards of water and sanitation provision within our intermediary cities? Secondly, how do we accelerate the reduction of extreme poverty in our cities? Third, how can national and central governments support in mobilization of resources to unlock effective delivery of services by our intermediary cities? Fourth, how can we best develop human capital in the intermediary cities in the sectors of administration, planning, and governance with a view to sustaining the momentum so far gathered towards the achievement of our SDGs? Fifth, what is the best way for us to create and sustain conducive environments for the accelerated growth of decentralization and evolution across our continent without compromising our national cohesion? Sixth, how do we reposition technology and connectivity as a driver to the achievement of SDGs in providing opportunities in our urban areas? Seventh, how can we enhance the voice of key stakeholders, including civil society, the private sector, academia, grassroots organizations, in providing capacity and impetus in the implementation of our SDGs? 8, how do we increase awareness of the negative effects of climate change and guarantee environmental equity for future generations? 9, what legal and policy frameworks should we establish so as to foster the robust and sustainable development of intermediary cities? And 10, what incentives should we put in place to enhance the competitiveness of our intermediary cities as the new frontiers and hubs for innovation, trade, and tourism? 11, what critical steps can we put in place to enhance disaster management in our urban areas, including those that may deal with pandemics similar to COVID-19? And 12, as we scale up and develop our urban areas in general, and in particular our intermediary cities, what strategies and policies are required to confront the threats of radicalization and terrorism, especially in the urban areas, including our intermediary cities? So, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my remarks, I would like to underscore that this must be a decade of action. The time is ripe for scaling up our efforts in support of intermediary cities and also in promoting greater synergies between local, national, and international efforts geared towards accelerating the realization of our SDGs. In every community and nation in Africa, There are sayings that recognize that in unity there is strength, and there is no challenge, no matter how seemingly insurmountable, can prevail over unified and united actions. I therefore urge all of you today to unite in the face of one of the greatest challenges of our time, that through concerted and synergetic actions, Africa's intermediary cities will play their rightful role in driving the implementation of Agenda 2030 and the African Union Agenda 2063. So, ladies and gentlemen, with those few remarks, it is indeed my great pleasure and honor to declare this 9th Africities Summit officially open, and I really look forward to the fruitful deliberations that I'm sure will take place here in this great city of Kisumu. Thank you, and God bless Africa. Thank you very much.
May we give His Excellency a moment as he takes his seat. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your candid words and well-presented remarks to all of us. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Please be seated. With your permission, sir, Your Excellency, we will now move to our next segment of our program, which is the high-level dialogue on infrastructure and urban development. And I kindly wish to introduce the moderator and invite him to the podium, and that is none other than the Kisumu City County Governor, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, who will take us through the next program. Welcome, Prof. The video.
Welcome to Kisumu, Kenya's third largest city and the capital of Kisumu County. The lakeside city is a place of passion, pleasure, and fun, where humanity interacts with development, where rural hinterland interacts with the city.
It is very easy to move in and out of Kisumu.
The road network is top-notch. The city is strategically placed. It is the gateway to Western Kenya and the entire Great Lakes region, thanks to Kisumu International Airport, Kisumu Port, and rail transport.
The whole package for Kisumu is ready. We're ready to say we want to be a significant city in Kenya, in Africa, and in the world at large.
And ready indeed for the upcoming Africities conference.
Having a conference like that with about 8,000 to 10,000 people visiting Kisumu is a great economic stimulus.
My administration, Governor, will extend to the county government of Kisumu every support in order for you to be able to showcase Kenya and Kisumu to Africa and the rest of the world.
There is ample accommodation in Kisumu, from high-end hotels and resorts to guest houses and apartments.
We've got several hotels that have opened up into the region. In Kisumu alone, we have 324 hotels. And they have different regions.
There are also so many magical places within and around the city, with those in the neighboring counties within reach. The presence of local and international commercial banks, supermarkets, malls, and open-air markets is a clear indication of a city ripe for business.
The word Kisumu came from the Luo word to trade, or to do commerce, or to borrow.
Hospitals are being upgraded through the Ministry of Health and Public Sanitation.
Kisumu is going to be a buzzing port city, and therefore that means there's a lot of opportunities.
In recreation, Kisumu All-Stars Football Club stands out. Not to forget hockey, volleyball, golf, basketball, and handball, among others. Key educational institutions include the University of Nairobi, Maseno University, Kenyatta University, Mount Kenya University, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, Uzima University, and Kisumu National Polytechnic. Kisumu County in general is rich in agriculture too, with rice farming and sugarcane farming contributing to the county's socio-economic growth and has room for potential investors.
People are positive about investing in Kisumu in all areas. In agriculture, in industry, in manufacturing, maritime transport, housing is a big area of investment. In tourism.
Kisumu, the land of passion, welcomes you to Africities 2022 as we celebrate metropolises of the future.
Let us welcome Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. We've seen the hospitality of our county.
Thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Before I call the panel, whose keynote speaker will be the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, our former Prime Minister, I'd like to confess to His Excellency the President that I was very jealous of his speech. It is professorial. And as a professor, I wished I had delivered the same speech. I'm also very jealous of my friend Eugene Wamalwa for being so spontaneous, but so factual and so analytical. I guess this cabinet has become a professorial cabinet. But let me assure you that the next cabinet of Raila Amolo Odinga and Marthakarua will be a cabinet of brains and deeds. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here to introduce the high-level dialogue on infrastructure and urban development, whose brainchild was the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who will lead the panel discussion. In this panel, high-level panel, we have with us as participants in this panel the chairperson of the African Union, His Excellency Moussa Faki, who has already spoken here, His Excellency Danny Faure, former president of Seychelles, who is actually a Ugandan-born citizen and is a native of East Africa par excellence. I would also like to introduce here Madam Mamouna Mohammed Sharif. She's already spoken here, but as you know, as she was speaking, she's the executive director of UN Habitat, and UN Habitat has been very keenly involved in developing infrastructure in Kisumu and other urban areas. In Kenya, we have had two gurus of infrastructure. When we were in the Kibaki cabinet, the right was the Minister for Housing, Public Works and Roads. And I assure you that the roads expansion you are seeing today under His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta was started then. When I was becoming governor in the county of Kisumu, I had a manifesto. And I said that I would like to expand maritime transport on the lake. The day he was elected, I went to the lake and looked at it and the harbor, and I said, what mistake did I make? This is a matter of task I will never undertake. Thanks to the Prime Minister and the President. If you go to the port today, it's a wonderful work of a modern harbor that has already started increasing maritime transport on the lake. And we do believe that it forms the backbone of the economy of Kisumu. I'd like to give applause to the two gentlemen. It is this keen relationship between infrastructure and urban development that we see all the time. As a road is being built, markets emerge. These markets later will become urban centers. If they do so spontaneously, we have problems. If they do so with a planned future, we have opportunities. The essence of this panel today is exactly to discuss that possibilities of exploiting opportunities given by the infrastructure already being developed in a country like Kenya to be the backbone of the provision of sustainable and resilient urban areas in the future of our nation. Thank you very much. Let me now invite here the Right Honourable Raila Amolo Odinga to come and take his chair and give his speech subsequently to the panel. Let me also invite to come and take the chair the former president of Seychelles. Let me invite also the chairperson of African Union, Mr. Faki, and Madam Mamuna to come and sit over here so that you can see them as the discussions goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Your Excellency, President Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, the Chairperson of the African Union, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I, like those who have spoken before me, equally very delighted to welcome you here to the city of Kisumu. The minister has told you that Kisumu was once called Port Florence. What he did not tell you was that Florence was the wife of the engineer, Mr. Patterson, who eventually killed the man-eaters of Savo. And she was the one who laid the last sleeper at the railway at the port of Kisumu. She was called Florence Patterson. Hence, the town was called Port Florence. Now, I'm going to just make a few remarks about infrastructure that will guide our discussion here this morning at the panel. We recognize infrastructure development as a priority key ingredient for economic development, regional trade, and integration of the continent. Infrastructure is what will make or break the continental free trade area. I was appointed by His Excellency, Mr. Mohammed, as the African Union High Representative on Infrastructural Development. What are my functions? I act as a catalyst to ensure that the infrastructural projects which have been identified by the African Union are implemented on a timely basis. Already the importance of infrastructure has already been mentioned. I want to say that rightfully, therefore, given Africa a world-class infrastructure is enshrined in the African Union Agenda 2063. It's projected that by the year 2050, that is about 28 years from now, Africa's population will hit 2 billion people. Well over this, that's 50% of the 2 billion people will be youth below the age of 18, and most of them are going to be living in cities. It's therefore obvious that we are already out of time to have our cities and urban areas connected by road, rail, air, ICT, and waterways. That also means we are not prepared for meaningful industrialization, urbanization, and economic growth that all depend on requisite infrastructure. As you know, in 2018, I accepted this appointment. In the same year, the African countries agreed to establish the African Continental Free Trade Area. According to UNECA, the African Free Trade Area will increase the value of inter-African trade by between 15 to 25%. Right now, Africa trades very little with itself. It is estimated that intra-African trade is just about 15%. Inter-European trade is 70%. Inter-Asian trade stands at 50%. Even South America stands at 25%. But why does Africa trade very little with itself? Well, the major reason is infrastructure. They don't have adequate infrastructure that connects these African countries. As an example, Kenya lies on the East African coast. Next to Kenya, there's a country called Central African Republic. Between Kenya and the Central African Republic, there's only South Sudan. Yet, for Kenya to trade with the Central African Republic, you need to find a ship that will be able to take your goods across the Cape and along the West African coast, the Cameroonian port of Douala, and then by road to Bangui in Central African Republic. And the British are much faster there than you. And that's why there in Bangui, they drink Kenyan tea, Christian as English breakfast tea, or French coffee. So what we want to talk about today is what AU is trying to do. And we are dealing here with major infrastructure projects which have been identified under what we call PIDA, Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. This consists of highways, high-speed railway network, ICT network, that is fiber optic network, the continent, the open air skies, the continent, and the waterways. These are the major projects in the continent. There are several highways that connect different African cities. You've got Dakar to Lagos, Lagos to Mombasa. You've got Cape to Cairo, Tunis to the Cape, through Khartoum to Djibouti. And there are missing links along those highways. There are several others. There are a total of 40 different highways that we're talking about. And then there's a high-speed railway network that connects different parts of the continent. An example I want to give you here is called LAPSET, the Lamu Port, South Sudan, and the Ethiopia Transit Corridor. That, when fully implemented, phase 1 and phase 2, because phase 1 is Lamu Port to Juba in South Sudan, the other one to Addis Ababa. The second one goes through Central African Republic all the way to Cameroon and port of Kribi, creating a land bridge that connects the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean and opening up the interior of the continent to wider trade, to Chad, to Niger, to Congo Republic and DRC, to Sudan, and then on to Egypt. There are several others that are planned. In as far as energy is concerned, Africa is energy deficient. Right now, the total installed capacity in the continent of Africa is 145 gigawatts. That is almost equal to South Korea's 130 gigawatts. But South Korea has only got a population of 52 million people. Africa has got 1 billion people, meaning that we are not fully prepared for our modernization, which is going to come whether we like it or not. So we need, therefore, to invest more in energy generation as well. We are planning also to construct 19 new ports on the continent. Also, about 20 new airports, improving the air transport in the continent. Currently, Africa, the air transport in Africa is too expensive. Some of them because of bureaucracies in the continent, infrastructure on the ground. This is another area where we need more investment. So I want to say, conclude here by saying that Africa has a need for more investment in infrastructure development. There is capacity deficiency. It is estimated by African Development Bank that Africa needs about $170 billion per annum to be able to meet our infrastructure needs. So the deficit stands at about $110 billion. And that's why I have proposed the establishment of African Infrastructure Fund. And we've been working here with several institutions to create this fund. We have established that there are a lot of capital lying idle on the continent, sovereign funds, pension funds, and insurance funds. So we are working towards tapping into these resources so that Africa can be self-sufficient in terms of funding, that Africa does not have to depend and rely on funding from just international financial institutions or bilaterals, some of which proved to be very, very expensive to African countries. So with these many remarks, I'm now happy to now sit down with the panelists, and then we can start this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleague, the panelists. That is the Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, the High Representative of African Union on Infrastructure. Here we have the Chairman of African Union himself, my dear friend, His Excellency Musa Faki. The first comment on infrastructure dialogue and development dialogue today, after that presentation, the Prime Minister, shall be from His Excellency Musa Faki, Chairman of AU. We shall all speak sitting here we are. You have the microphone so that we can dialogue among ourselves. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Please allow me to speak in French, and I hope there is someone who is translating. If not, Mustafa, you can proceed. Merci, Monsieur le Gouverneur. D'abord, je voudrais remercier son honorable qui a été nommé par nos soins aux représentants de l'Union africaine sur la question du développement des infrastructures. Cette décision n'a pas été prise par hasard. C'est en tenant compte du background de M. Raila Odinga que nous l'avons choisi pour ses plaidoyers importants et stratégiques pour le continent africain. Je ne sais pas s'il y a traduction. Is there any translation? Does it work? Le développement des infrastructures sont une priorité. Je dirais même la priorité des priorités dans le continent africain. L'Union africaine a élaboré une stratégie sur le développement prioritaire des infrastructures en Afrique. À travers le NEPAD et les autres institutions africaines. Le constat aujourd'hui est que le continent est très peu connecté. Nous avons mis en place la zone de libre-échange continentale. Elle ne pourrait jamais être totalement opérationnelle si l'on ne connecte pas physiquement les États et les communautés économiques régionales. C'est la raison pour laquelle une des conditions de la réalisation de ce grand marché, qui est la zone de libre-échange continentale, sa réalisation ne peut être possible qu'en développant de manière conséquente les infrastructures. Les routes, les chemins de fer, les ports et les aéroports, l'énergie, les ITC, tout ceci demande des investissements. Même si les études sont prêtes, les plans sont prêts, le problème qui se pose, c'est celui du financement. Question sur laquelle a travaillé l'honorable Raila Odinga. Comment mobiliser les ressources? Il faut d'abord mobiliser les ressources internes du continent africain. Notamment les fonds de pension qui sont très importants. Comment mobiliser le secteur privé africain? Et enfin, comment développer des partenariats publics-privés et comment mobiliser nos partenaires extérieurs dans le cadre de doter le continent des infrastructures nécessaires. Voilà où se situe la problématique et c'est la raison pour laquelle je crois que l'honorable Raila Odinga est le spécialiste de la question et il a été chargé par l'Union africaine justement de trouver des pistes qui puissent nous permettre d'avancer sur ce dossier stratégique. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Makofi Kwake, please clap for him. Thank you very much. An issue, obviously, which the chairman has emphasized, which comes under the framework of the High Representative of the AU, and on which he has worked very hard, is mobilizing resources for infrastructure in Africa and coordinating planning across our nations, especially in the energy sector, where if we synergize and encourage our interdependence, we have plenty of potential in Africa to generate power and therefore use it as an important source of development and infrastructure. Mobilization of resources and partnership is important. In this regard, let me now ask His Excellency Danny Faure, former President of Seychelles, as a former president, what his experience was, and when he reflects today, what to do to come together as Africa in this particular regard. Mr. President.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I think, first of all, we need to remind ourselves that on our continent, we have institutions, some excellent institutions. We have also created our own 3 banks. We have the Afri-Exim Bank, we have the Trade and Development Bank, And of course, we have the African Development Bank. And the African Development Bank, since the year 2013, has been providing to all countries on the continent data on where we are in terms of infrastructure development. In fact, the first data came out in the year 2013, and the last one was in 2021. In fact, it covered the period 2018 to 2020. I think it's important that we back our intervention based on facts and data. And these data show us where we are in terms of levels of development. The next step, and this is my opinion, it is important that Africa chooses the right infrastructure that will have the effective impact on the continent. And I want to give 2 examples here. I was recently in Botswana, where I saw a new bridge that was built. The length of the bridge is 971 meters, and the bridge crosses Botswana into Zambia, but provides a hub in terms of trade to cover 2 other countries, and this is Zimbabwe and Namibia. Now, for me, this infrastructure is strategic, is important. So as we move forward on the continent, we need to look at other projects. And here in Kisumu, I've been told by the governor, our moderator, as you know, Kisumu sits on the Lake Victoria, and they have been building what is called a new maritime corridor that will help citizens of Eastern Africa. And this is very good. This is the type of strategic infrastructure that is needed for our continent. The challenge that we have after COVID is where will the resources come from? Because what COVID has taught us, that we remain very vulnerable. Apart from the number 1 threat to the continent, which is climate change, we have other threats on our continent. So this calls for united action. And here when I talk about united action under the African Union, in the presence of our chairman, I am talking of coordination. I think our approach on the ground should not be fragmented. I think our approach on the ground needs to be strategic, but well coordinated, so that the outcomes are beneficial to our nations and population. So in answering the question of the moderator, let us make use of the 3 banks that we have and ensure that we have bankable projects. I repeat, bankable projects that fall within the vision that we have for our continent. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. The issue of bankable projects, strategic planning, and making good choices will be based on getting information and the right data. Comparative data among African countries coordinated by the African Union and other inter-African institutions. In that regard, I'd like to call now Madam Mamouna Sharif, the Executive Director of UN Habitat, an organization which has been very key in getting data and using that data to transform urban centers and also to encourage infrastructure across the nation so that these urban centers can synchronize with each other. Madam Sharif Mamuna.
Thank you very much, Honorable Governor, distinguished delegates. Thank you for having me and having UN Habitat on this panel. And we heard from the speeches this morning and also from the President's speech just now, we are facing now the 3 C's conflict: COVID-19, climate emergency, climate change, or whatever you say is climate refugees is happened now, and also the conflict and crisis. And all the 3 C's will end up in C's. What I mean, the other C is cities, because more than 70% of the population will be in city. And city, as we know, now the theme of today's Africities is the role of intermediate city. And city also consumes 70% of the energy and also produce or emit 70% of the carbon emission. But that's not only the negative part, but cities is also a place where the concentration of talent, concentration of technology, concentration of skill, and also the economic growth, the engine of economic growth. Let me bring back to the Africa. I would like to share with you 4 points. One is in the continent of Africa and also continent of Asia. These 2 continents have a very rapid urbanization and rapid demographic. Let me share with you a few data. It is only 1 century ago, the urban population in Africa is less than 8%. But now, it's more or less 65% to 70%. And in 2020, let me share with you with data. 2020, 587.7 million of people living in cities in Africa, compared to 556.6 million in Europe. And it's also that it's expected to be 1.4 million people will live in African cities by 2050. What does this mean? What is, when you hear this figure, what is the immediate thing that cross into your mind? One is the provision of basic services. Basic services is the human right. For example, water, electricity, sanitation, health, housing. So I think it's due to what the President mentioned just now. I think the rise in the informal settlement. So to why people move from the rural area to the urban area? If they have the infrastructure in the rural area, maybe in a small scale, for example, they have the health facilities, they have the education facilities, they have employment, there's no reason for the young people and for people to move to the city areas or even to the metropolitan. So we need to look at the intermediary cities in the provision of basic services and infrastructure. Whatever that we have in the city areas, for example, education, health, banking, and hospital, so we should have that in intermediate cities and also in rural areas. And I would like to share with you from the UN Habitat Letters Assessment indicate that very, very severe backlog of provision of public services. And COVID-19 is a wake-up call and is really a testimony to what we are lacking in terms of water. We ask the people to wash hands, but if they don't have water to drink, how can we ask them to wash their hands? So I think this is the gap that we have in many of the African cities. I've been to Burkina Faso, I've been to Mozambique, I've been to Senegal and Cameroon and other cities. I think the basic services is infrastructure is very, very much in needs in these cities. And it's also would like to see that there is an improvement in terms of the slum condition. This is, for example, like now, in the year 200, 65% of the population live in slum. But in 2018, it's improved to 56%. But the number increased. The number of the people living in the informal settlement increased from 800 million to 1 billion. So, first point, rapid demographic trend in Africa. Second, lead to the lack of basic services. Why is it led to the lacking of basic services? I think we heard about the speech from the president because lack of planning. Unplanned and unmanageable cities which link to the urban sprawl. Where there is we cannot see the limit. Where are the cities metropolitan and is linked to the cities? I think this is very, very crucial in Africa. My third point is that when you have unplanned and unmanaged cities, I'm very happy to hear that out of the 12 questions that asked by the president, and also in his speech, he believed in planning. I think this is very, very important to have the well-planned and well-managed cities. Due to this unplanned, that is the deficit in housing. Housing is a very, very important component because by having house and housing, it has the catalyst and as a ripple impact to other local services and to other local supply chains. Like if you have a housing development, you should have the energy, transport, mobility, electricity, education, health, and all that. So in Africa, 160 million affordable housing and adequate houses is needed today in the sub-Saharan Africa to meet the most urgent needs of urban population. So I think housing is very, very important. That's why UN Habitat's priority has been endorsed by the Executive Board. Change and the localization of SDG is the main priority. Go to the fourth things that the gap in the financing for the infrastructure. The African Development Bank estimates that for Africa to keep up with its urbanizing towns and cities, it needs infrastructure financing 170 billion a year by 2025. This is the reality. We need 100 billion. The financing gap is 100 billion a year. So this is also hampering the development of Africa. What is it needed? I'm very, very happy to hear the president say that we need planning. What we need is that I would like to share with you three things. One, we need a strong leadership. We have a very visionary, strong leadership which are competent, accountable, transparent, effective, and efficient. Second is the governance, either at the local level or at the regional level, at the national level. The governance must be there. And the third is the capacity. The capacity, it can be the hardware and also the software. The hardware and the software is talent, technology, capacity, finance, and the hardware is of course the tools and the infrastructure. So I stop here. I will get any question that I will try to answer. Thank you so much, Honorable Governor. I pass back the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Madam Mamuna. One issue you have raised which is so important is how we harness the water resources of Africa. Both rainwater, river water, ocean water, and so on. During COVID, water became the center of our life on a daily basis. Yes, so much of it is wasted in Africa. Would it be possible to have an African Union protocol of preservation of water and its use across the continent for irrigation, for drinking, and for sanitation, as we saw during COVID? That's a question worth asking. At this point in time, I'd like to ask any member of the panel who has a comment to make from the comment for the colleagues or a question to raise before we move to the next. You are okay. So any person from the audience? If not, let me consult with the Permanent Secretary to move to the another segment. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your role.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you shall bear with us just for a short while. We have a very important and special ceremony to perform now as the final act this morning to open this convention and this summit. I will therefore request, before we play the national anthem, to conclude the Secretary General of the United Cities and Local Government of Africa, my dear friend Jean-Pierre Longbassi, to come over and to give a special prize to a very special person, and that prize will be given to the person by the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya. Being the High Representative of the Chairman of the AU on infrastructure, a topic we have just discussed at this panel, it is important that my dear friend Danny Faure, the former president of Seychelles, crowns this occasion this morning by being recognized for something that's done special for Africa. Secretary General, I give the floor to you.
Excellency, sorry for my voice, sleepless nights. The United Cities and Local Government of Africa used to honor people that have served the cause of local Africa. Among the honorary members, we have former heads of states, members of UCAG Africa honorary members. As former head of state, you've got President Sisano, President Obasanjo, President Mbeki, President Pires, the late President Jerry Rawlings, President Nisofor Soglo. The Political Committee of Officiates and UCAG Africa has chosen to honor the same way President Faure because of what they have done for decentralization in Seychelles and the activities, and you witness his plea here for an Africa built from bottom up. So it is my honor to hand over to you the cordon that will be put next.
No, thank you so much. And I want to really express my appreciation to the Executive Committee of UCLGA for honoring me today during this 9th edition of Africities. It is a real honor, and I want to say thank you. Dedicate the trophy and medal to the Sechula people. Thank you.
Good afternoon. First, I want to pass a vote of thanks for all the presenters that we've had here. First, our President, His Excellency the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, who officially opened the meeting, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the panelists who are here before us. We really appreciate your time and the kind words that you've said to our delegates and setting the tone of the 9th Africities Summit. So we've come to an end to this session, and we will quickly go and cut the ribbon for the exhibition on the other end, and we hope Right Honorable the Raila Odinga, the Prime Minister, will lead us in that session. Thereafter, we will go on for lunch. And I would like to indicate as follows: the VVIP, our lunch is set just outside here. Then the VIP and leaders of delegation, the lunch will be at the back end. There will be ushers to guide us through. And then the rest of the delegates, the lunch will be served near the exhibition ground. Thank you so much. And then this afternoon session, as is under the schedule, will start at 2:30. So the plenary halls and the meeting rooms, you will be shown by our ushers. So thank you so much and welcome. So we proceed to the cutting of the ribbon of the exhibition, and then we proceed on lunch thereafter. Thank you. I'm told there is the national anthem. Can we stand, please? National anthem, play now. Who is playing?